ahead and call to order the special meeting of Lake Orion Village Council for Monday, February 9th, 2026, at 5:30 PM. Roll call, please.
President Rudd,
Here.
Pro Tem Ford,
Here.
Councilmember Mosher,
Here.
Councilmember Lamb,
Here.
Councilmember Dandelides,
Here.
Councilmember Comparoni, Councilmember Papachek.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The purpose of our special meeting is to hold a work session focused on fiscal year 2026, 2027 Village Council goals setting and to receive public input. Open call to the public. See no public, so a closed call to the public. So item 4, other items, goal setting and objectives, fiscal year 2026, 2027. Mr. McCleary.
Your Honor, members of council, you are scheduled tonight to consider discussing and continuing to consider goal setting for fiscal year 2026-27. You held actually 2 sessions on January 26th and discussed goals and objectives, and we are here tonight to hopefully wrap up that discussion. And with that, Your Honor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So where we left off last meeting was we had, oops, as I throw things, we had condensed our goals and objectives to a list. You'll find those in the minutes for the special meeting. So if you're looking through your packet trying to find the list, on page 26 of your packet is where they started, and you'll see some of them were added. You'll see in italics some were removed. And then in the following minutes, you have to jump down to page 34. They will continue as well.
Teresa,
Yes.
Alex's computer has failed. Could you
Here, I-
take a look at it for him, please?
Just keep smashing buttons.
Well, normally it's purple, but.
Been there before.
There you go. I got you. Oh, but you don't get to keep my pen. So we ended with 4 goals, goal headings. Goal 1 was to promote sound and prudent financial management with 4 objectives under there. Goal 2, management of the CIP with 4 objectives. Goal 3, promote quality recreation services and environmental stewardship with 3 objectives. And goal 4, promote efficient and effective municipal operations, and there are 7 objectives underneath there. So our goal for this week's meeting is to go through each of these, decide if we still, after thinking about them, if we're still keeping them, and try to make them a little bit smarter and, with actual tangible things to them. So we'll start with goal number 1, promote sound and prudent financial management. Objective 1, investigate paid parking, including the impact found in similar-sized communities, parking providers, to determine if we want to move forward with paid parking by the end of the year. And just for council's note, I condensed them on my own document, so I'm not reading whole paragraphs here, but to help us move through them a little bit more quickly than reading whole paragraphs on the.
So how do we want to do
minutes.
this? Do we want
So,
to?
So our assignment from last time was to think about them, try to make them a little bit smarter. So if you have suggestions for that, or if you want to advocate for eliminating them or just leaving them as is, you're satisfied, whatever council's pleasure is. Yes, Mr. Dandelides.
So if I can weigh in on that one, I think what you read, I think is perfect. By the end of the year, maybe we can do it sooner than that.
Yeah.
But I think that's exactly what we ought to do. We ought to evaluate, and in my mind, we ought to do it, but we'll get there.
Do what, George?
The paid parking.
You want, so you believe we should have paid parking?
That's my opinion, but we need to do the investigation, get the proposals.
My opinion is we should have paid parking too, and I seem to recall that we did extensive investigations, and we were, that's why I'm saying I think we could move right ahead with that goal and begin the debate.
Yeah, I think right
we're
now
ready.
is not going to be the debate time,
No, I
part of
mean,
the
I
broader
think
discussion. Yeah.
And you talked about timeliness, we talked about the SMART, And so timely, I believe the parking is ready for the council to debate. I think it's ready to be brought forward. We've had numerous investigations, and they've had studies, reports, and some companies and some fails. So I think we should, not before the end of the year, I should just think we should just put this right there as let's debate the merits of introducing paid parking to the village.
And I think
Next.
that's part of all of it. I mean, I think we looked at one company, there are other companies as well that we could get, information from, and there are newer council members too since that discussion, so that all can be part of,
Yes, I remember, I
Yeah.
think whatever.
I think we all agree, other
Yeah.
than perhaps the timing.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think we should move it forward. We've spent time on it for 4 years. So, or longer before that even, right, Teresa? Yeah, I believe before that even.
It's come up in waves and, previous to me, during time, yeah.
So realistically, since administration will be the one doing the presenting, I guess I'd ask administration, what's the appropriate timing?
Next week, 2 weeks?
The chief has been working on this project for us. We started out looking at MPS. We since found that there are some problems with their technology. Our focus has been redirected to Park Mobile, and we believe that that is a workable solution for us. I think probably by, Chief, you think by June 30th, we could have a presentation? There are several steps in this process I would recommend. The first is having Park Mobile come in and give a presentation on what they can do for us. We'd have to decide where we want paid parking, only on the streets. I know that was some of the discussion you had at the last meeting. Only on-street parking would be paid parking. We wouldn't include the parking lots. So that's a discussion you'll have to have. But then engaging the business community and the public generally in the process, so that they can have input to make sure that we've got the support of the community, would probably be part of this overall process. But I think June 30th might be a reasonable timeframe for
For
being able to move
presentation,
forward.
yeah. Yeah, and by the end of the year, then us making a decision after presentations from information we get, input from the public, so
Chief, do you believe that's
a reasonable,
realistic?
Yeah.
okay. So then we'll just look for administration to when you're ready to make that presentation to the council.
Okay, so objective 1.1, was it just explore parking, or was
Yeah.
it just explore parking?
So investigate paid parking, and I had put, part of our discussions were, impact found in other communities, parking providers, so Park Mobile, we had discussed MPS before, to determine if we want to move forward with paid parking by the end of the year.
I'd like to change that word investigate to something more definitive and forward-moving like debate, or, because.
I don't need a wordsmith it, so debate,
Yeah, so why don't we change it to debate to,
But I want to make sure that we have the information in front of
Yeah.
us.
Well,
So
investigate and
investigate it
deliberate.
first, and
Maybe
then-
investigate and
then debate.
deliberate.
we'll investigate
Investigate and
and
deliberate.
debate.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah,
already,
there we go.
it's time to start talking.
So, are we okay to move on? Objective 1.2, establish revised process for budget development for the coming fiscal year that establishes preset expenditure targets, eliminates funding and operational redundancies, and establishes new revenue sources or cost reductions to reduce residents' financial burden for capital improvement costs.
Wow.
It's a mouthful.
That's a lot.
So I think this one was probably derived from what I put in.
That was your exact wording.
It was it really?
Yeah.
Are we still reading off of 26?
So,
So that is off of 26, objective 1.2 on here.
yeah, and I think this would kind of be either similar or the same as objective 2.4, which is alternative funding strategies. So my goal here is, I think that we ought to have a goal that says we're going to finish phases 2 and 3 of the sewer pump project without impacting additional water and sewer rate increases. And I think we can do that. I think if we put our heads together, I think we can do that. And I think that it's a partially budget reduction. I think it's revenue generation. I think we should be looking at some of our investment strategies. And I think that it will ultimately end up with us looking at the size of the DDA. But I think there's a combination there that will provide adequate resources to stop the increases in the water and sewer. And so that's where I was going with this. And so in bullet 1, establish a preset. My thought here is that we ought to go into our budget for 26, 27, our budget discussion, having given administration a goal or a target to come back with a budget for that fiscal year. And I would throw out there a 10% reduction of our current fiscal year spending. So not revenue-based, but look at what we were budgeted to spend, and not what we actually spent, but what we were budgeted, 10% reduction of that, come back with a proposal to meet that, and that would be where we start our budget discussions for 26, 27. And that's the target I think we ought to have out there, and I think it's achievable.
Can we move that, all that, except for the, can we move that down to 2.4?
Yeah, to me, this particular one is part of 2.4. It's part of the bigger picture overall, how are we going to manage the finances of this CIP?
Yeah, so I pretty much, I think, agreed with everything that you said. So, but it's to have it, I think we should take it down to 2.4 and leave that one, revise the established preset expenditure. I mean, the part about establish a revised process for budget development. I like to keep that here in section 1, but I think the focus of that would be upon giving a more forward-reaching look at our budget procedures, and then take all the CIP funding development stuff down to 2.4, to separate them clear. Just you have two separate objectives.
So I think what you're suggesting then would be that 1.2 just have the first bullet, and then bullets 2 and 3 be dropped down to that overall. Is that what you
Yeah, I
were
think.
getting at?
Yeah, whatever the, yeah.
So I think that makes sense, but I think bullet 1 needs to be very specific. This is the target, and I think we need to set that expectation, and then when we get together for our budget discussions, that would be the starting point.
So when I'm looking at 2 and 3, the eliminates funding and operational redundancies, establishing a revenue source, some of that is already stated in 2.4, alternative funding strategies for the CIP.
I'm
But we could
sorry.
just say, under 2.4,
Yeah.
instead of bringing all that verbiage down, investigate alternative funding strategies for CIP, including bonding, special assessment, tax millage levies, with the goal of reducing residents' financial burden for CIP costs.
Sure.
Then we can,
But again, my thought on objective 1.2 is that we need to establish that target now, so that, as the village manager has in the village manager's report, budget preparation, I'd like to see administration's budget preparation be that 10% reduction.
yeah, Mr.
I agree with the concept. So one of my proposals, like down in section 2, when you talked about the combined strategies to fund the CIP program, the one would be what is available, just off the top from a policy perspective, what is available within this coming year's budget? Have we gained much in tax revenue increases due to inflation, and there's, several of the new projects have been reassessed. I did put in a request for, see if any new assessment data had been posted. I don't think it has yet, not till at the end of February. Later in February is when the new assessment data, so we won't know till the end of February what we can estimate our revenue stream to be. But I think I'm inclined to say, for this year at least, I'm inclined to support stripping any additional excess general fund dollars and combining them with other funding sources within the village structure to pay against the sewer bonds. So I think you stated that earlier.
Yeah, and I think.
But at 10%, just
the
to say
difference-
10%, I know it's a target for you, but I don't think it's a realistic tool for the village manager. He needs to look at what surplus exists, and then we need to set the policy.
See, and I have a very fundamental difference of opinion on that.
Sure.
I think that the budget process shouldn't be revenue-driven. We shouldn't look at revenue and then decide what it is we're going to spend. We ought to be looking at what we need to spend regardless of revenue.
I agree completely that you mistake what I was saying. What I was saying is based on what the needs of the village are, seeing what our revenue is, and then seeing if the difference between what our needs are, if it's 10%, 5%, 20%, I don't think it's realistic to set a percentage at this time. That's all. I agree with the program, I just don't, laying out 10% sounds like a target that's just going to be missed somehow.
No, it won't be missed because that's how the budget's going to get developed. So it won't be missed. That's how we're going to develop the budget.
Other
Your
council
Honor.
thoughts?
Let's just, wait, maybe we're getting too far into that. So we need a policy, so at some point we need a policy formulation to address that. That would be us having a talk, and then we have a vote and decide how to direct.
We just can't put it off because we're getting into, this is the budget season.
I'd like to resolve it before the assessment, this year's tax generation.
And I would suggest that the assessment's got nothing to do with it.
No, so there's a tax collecting time? They do the assessment rolls. When do they collect the taxes, Darwin? When do the assessment rolls set and the taxes are collected, the first taxes this year?
July 1.
So if we're going to affect any of the tax collecting business in the village, say we want to redistribute some of the taxes collected to use them to take care of the sewer and water increases, we need to move smartly. Because there's a whole process of notifications, public hearings and such things that take a couple months. So yeah, I want to move smartly on this if we want to front load this year's budget. Otherwise, it'll be 18 months before we can actually refinance the village. And so the people there'll be no way that we'll be able to pay this year. There won't be any, so.
I think what I'm hearing is debate on trying to solve objective number one right now.
Oh,
And-
okay.
Because objective 1.2, because the way it's written right now, establish a revised process for budget development for the coming fiscal year that establishes preset expenditure targets. It sounds like there's a little bit of difference in how we approach that, and so we're trying to debate and solve that right now when it's a goal for us to do, and we shouldn't be trying to solve all the goals right now. So I'm inclined to leave it as is unless we want to tweak it again. I don't think we need to totally wordsmith it, but hearing some differences in approach that need to be reconciled, it's not for today to completely solve.
So when are we going to do that? Because there's no sense having administration go do a budget and then us come in 3 days later and say, this is the target we wanted to set, okay? We need to set the number now, the target now, because there's no sense in wasting their time doing something other than what we're asking for.
The words are there, George. The word is there. Why don't we move forward? Like, I'll agree with her.
And I'm fine, just when are we going to establish,
I'm ready to go
that
in
target?
2 weeks. We can do it in 2 weeks if you like. I got time. I've got time.
I won't be here in 2 weeks.
Oh, we We can talk on the phone.
So we need to do it in 2 hours
All right.
while I'm still here.
So we're going to keep
Yeah,
one,
So we'll
we're going to keep one and
yeah,
move the others?
Objective 1.2, that first part, yes.
Okay.
Objective 1.3, investigate combining village and township into a single municipality.
Your Honor, I did
Yeah.
want to comment on
Okay,
on the
sorry.
previous
Yeah.
one. The village charter sets forth the process on how the budget is prepared. And while I appreciate what it is we're trying to do by setting budget reduction targets, in effect, what that does is it impacts the village manager's ability to have discretion in preparing the budget. We go through a budget process, the village manager and department heads prepare a proposed budget,
Yeah.
it's submitted to the council, and then the council, you make whatever changes to the budget you want to make. If you want to reduce things, if you want to eliminate some programs, what have you, that's completely at the discretion of the council. But I think the two functions are independent under our charter. The village manager's ability to prepare a budget, and then the council's ability, having the power of the purse, to determine what in fact gets funded. I'm a little concerned about saying we're, setting a target of just reducing the budget by 10% and then leaving it to the manager to make those decisions, because my decisions on how we reduce the budget and yours may be completely different. I think that's got to be a cooperative discussion that we have after the budget is presented to council. And going through the process of twice of having to address during the Great Recession, eliminating $4 million from budgets in 2 different fiscal years, I can tell you that an across-the-board reduction does not work. Each department is unique. We have to look at things, if we are going to reduce, we've got to look at them analytically. My other question would be, are we talking about reducing all funds by 10%? Are we talking about only reducing general fund? So there's a lot of questions here. My main concern, though, is you're taking the village manager's discretion away in preparing the initial budget, and I have some serious concerns about that.
Can I respond to that? So I think just the opposite. I think that we're giving you all of the discretion, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you which line items to take anything out of or to budget. All I'm suggesting is that we give you a target, and then as part of your function, you go back to each one of the department heads, and as an administration, you work through how you get there. I don't want to tell you how to get there. I recognize that's not my role. All my role would be is to set that target and then allow you to go back and come up with a way to balance everything to meet that target. So I would suggest what I'm proposing is exactly what your job would be per charter.
I'll push back on that a little bit,
Okay.
only in that when you say it's his job to make those decisions, some of those are like decisions that we should be making on what we want to prioritize, because those are policy type of decisions, or, legislative, more political type of decisions, that do we want to put more money towards one thing and do a 20% cut here and put, so this can be fully, some of those decisions I think are ours to make. So I'd push back on that a little bit, in that, just saying, yeah, 10%, it does make Darwin then make some of those decisions that maybe we should be making.
So how do we do it then? Because I've got my list. I've gone through this, and I've got my list.
Right, so
And I
your
can
list
tell
is
you
gonna be
exactly
different from
where
mine.
I'd get 10%, okay? And you're right, yours might be different. So how do we get that all on the table
Let's-
and come up with something that works?
Let's philosophically, let's keep this on a philosophical level.
Yeah.
Right? So we all understand what you suggested, George. Okay? We completely understand it. just want to make sure everyone understands me. I have similar mindset to George. However, the words I want to use are excess and surplus general funds. Okay, that means funds that are available, left over, aren't needed for our core situation. So the core situation is for us to decide in our policy whether we want to build bridges and tennis courts and things, okay? And whether we want to have snow plowing and leaf pickup and cemeteries. So we need to look at, let the village manager, with our intention, let him look at these things and see how they fit into his view of how he needs, what he needs to run things. So I think there's enough space in this for us to just understand this amongst us now and move forward to the next topic so we can get through this tonight. We got another, whole nother meeting after
Yeah.
this. We could have a special, you know.
Yeah, I think kind of what I'm hearing here, though, is like being as fiscally conservative as possible in the budget preparation, but that comes out, that list of where we cut, comes out in the budget sessions as we debate where you think we should cut, where I think we should cut, where Stan thinks we should cut to reach some of those goals.
And I'd be very interested in where administration
Yeah.
sees possibilities, right?
Yeah,
We're all in this together.
we are.
Yeah, let's get down to the.
So, yeah, 1.3, investigate combining village and township in a single municipality. I think that's a research thing, so we have the information.
Could we just simplify that and just say, form a committee to investigate and report and get rid of all the other gibberish, and we'll just do the same thing we did last time? No one's pushing for it.
Right. I think just investigate can be form a committee.
And if investigate and form a committee, and then I'll volunteer for the committee. I love to have the people look at me and, you know, with the crooked eyes and the.
So objective 1.3, form a committee to investigate combining village and township into a single municipality.
Yeah, that's it. Sound good? All right.
I don't think we can do that in this meeting because it's goals and objectives. Can we, or that should be
Should be on a regular.
on a regular agenda. So you can put that on a regular agenda, forthcoming.
Yeah, get rid of it and.
Objective 1.4, investigate water usage and discharge, asking the questions, how, when, at what cost, how to pay, for example, new infiltration study. Yes.
So what time frame can we put on this? I think this one, I think we know what needs to happen, just how quickly can we get it done?
Has some of that work already been done? The infiltration, the water balance within the village's water and sewer system.
We may have some data in the 2017 SAW report, but that would have been the last time that it was looked at. What we're probably going to have to do as part of this would be do another
Infiltration study.
televising of the system to identify any either previous or new inflow and infiltration.
How much do those studies cost off the top of your head, do you know?
The SAW grant back in 2017 cost over $600,000.
Yeah, I'd be
Now,
willing to,
televising the system
Yeah.
was just one part of that.
Right.
I'd be
So-
willing to form a committee
Yep.
for free to review the available data that we have now and make a recommendation to council.
Man, we love our committees.
I got time. I've got no projects this spring, so I seriously, would anybody
Yeah.
else be interested in sitting down and spending a couple hours reviewing all the available data and for getting their hands around it?
So we can put that on a future agenda to,
Yeah.
a committee for investigating water use,
You can save-
usage and
yeah,
discharge.
Don't want to spend money if we could just talk about it.
So then moving on to Goal 2, management of CIP. We eliminated some other things under Objective 1, so would be reduce and minimize taxpayer burden for CIP funding. by maximize outside other funding. I think that combines with objective, so I'm looking at page,
What, yeah, where are you?
Yeah, where are you?
I'm looking, because some of these, this is my condensed list from the notes. I'm trying to look at the minutes, because some of them are moved around in the minutes.
So is that 2.4?
There were actually two of them that were pretty redundant, so I'll just strike that and make that,
Oh, I see, you didn't strike him, you just put a note, the objective was removed. I'm
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, 2.1.
so it's the same thing as 2.4 on my list anyway, investigate alternative funding strategies. Okay. So then the next one, conduct a review of water rates and billing practices. There we go.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we're on goal 2.
Goal 2. So
Okay.
my list 2.1 just had pretty redundant. So 2.1, review water rates and billing practices.
Okay. So the other two, according to the minutes, 2.1 and 1.1 village-owned properties, those are removed?
2.1 was
Children's
moved
park?
down to goal 3, under quality recreation services, on that item on page 27. And then village-owned properties is still in here. We had just named it to, no, wait, we had moved that one to objective 4 under efficient municipal operations.
Thank you. Okay.
We moved things multiple times during the meeting last time. So, under management of CIP, 2.1, review water rates and billing practices. I know Wes is, working on some of those things as well.
That goal is kind of in line with 4.
Yeah, 2.4, I think.
Yeah, I think,
It is, but I think we pulled it out as a specific example of the CIP that we want to review that, affects the funding of everything.
yeah, I know, but they're inseparable items. The funding of the CIP, so the CIP is broken up into several parts that
Yep.
are inseparable. We talked about that last time. Sewer and water is its own unit of the CIP that's because of the funding and billing, it's a separate unit. The streets are a separate unit. And then the rest of the capital issues with the village, structures, buildings and stuff are a third element. They all have to be addressed together, yet they are separate. So the water rates and billing practices should go with the funding of the sewer and water portion of the CIP. So I don't know how combining 2.1 and 2.4, but they belong together for that element. So
I think
maybe
that's why it's under the heading of Goal 2, management of CIP. We just specifically called out that piece of it.
So, I don't know if maybe we should look at the 3 elements and create 3 separate objectives under sub-objectives. One is the sewer and water issue. The other one is the street and road issue. And the third would be the CIP elements such as the DPW yard, the building repair. And then we can look at each of them with the strategies of financing them under the same umbrella of the big picture CIP funding, so that we can understand there's 3 distinct parts, even though we could say we're going to try to do them all together. After looking at these numbers tonight, I'm not seeing that we're funding a lot of stuff.
I think,
I'm trying to
yeah.
make sense to end.
It does, but I think there are more than just 3 pieces. I mean, because part of the CIP, there's the DPW building, but there's also police. There's also like all these other things.
Well, I mean, those are all part of the village general fund part of the CIP. What I'm saying is the funding streams for sewer and water are separate from the funding streams for the roads.
Correct.
And then everything else is a different funding stream based on the general fund, general tax revenues. So we can basically, they're all separate funds and they're all separate things. We can keep them together, but they're looked at separately. Do you know what I'm saying? The funding, the who's paying is separate.
Right.
if we decide, for instance, we're going to look at these elements and decide, well, we can't proceed with the water main improvements because we can't even pay for the sanitary improvements we have underway, then, you know what I'm saying, we can compartmentalize it a little bit in our discussion. So I'd like everyone to be aware that the CIP is a coherent program, but it's actually 3 separate elements in the funding, okay?
Yeah,
And we
just-
can't cross-fund them with anything except the general fund revenue, so.
Correct. But what I think this one is saying is not necessarily how are we funding all of this, it's let's review our water rates and our billing practices as to how we arrive at those rates, because there are different formulas and different models, and I think that is what this is saying, not necessarily where are we getting money for the, you know, the water main projects that are still on hold, but it's the water, the billing practices. And on this page 27, 2.1 and 2.2 are the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what this is saying, not necessarily where are we getting the money for all this, but what is our because there are a lot of different ways you can tweak and structure the water billing, and I know Wes could talk to a lot about that. So I'm inclined to leave that, just because it's similar, but it's a little bit different than just where are we getting the money.
I disagree, but I want to be brief. I really believe the water rates and billing practices, the only thing that is available to look at is the quarterly versus the monthly bills. We talked about that, but as far as the practice, pretty much they have introduced us to an established protocol and procedure that involves the greater metropolitan Detroit community, and, you know, we don't really have any control of any of that. So what I'm saying is that's not the issue. The issue is the funding, not the day-to-day operate. It's all about the funding. And
Well, if no one else
that's-
thinks we need to look at the rates and billing practice, that's fine, we can take it off, but I don't feel the need to put subtitles for every section, I
Okay.
guess, in the CIP.
Well, so I don't think we need to mess with their practices. I think we need to go down more on item 2.4.
That's where I think the real discussion and the real benefit is in 2.4.
Okay.
So I'd
we take-
eliminate the
Okay.
2.1 and 2.2.
So then that leaves us with 2.3, analyze the 75-25 infrastructure funding to determine appropriate use, and then the alternative.
So this one I know was one that I put on here, and it got, the wording that we've got in here doesn't really get at what I was looking at, or
Okay.
what my intention was. So we have identified this 75-25, and very specifically, the 75% we can only use within the district, right? So where I was going was, and I believe we've asked this question before, we've got this CIP out there, and if we look at each of the items in the CIP, there are those that are outside of the district and fall off the table. There are those that are inside the district that we should be looking at, and then there are some that kind of go in between. We got this 75%, and we know we can only use it on this list of things. So what I'm getting at is, I want to see the list of things that we can use the 75. I want to look at the timing of each one of those. I want to look at the projection of revenues generated by the 75% and see if it lines up. And if it
Yep.
lines up perfectly, great. If it doesn't, then we need to shift the CIP so that it does. If it overfunds or underfunds, we need to understand that too. So this to me is a matchup of 75% revenue stream to our CIP of those elements that are within the district and can be funded with that 75%. Because when we look at the bigger picture, that 75% is a big piece of funding the CIP, I think, but we really need to understand where can we use it? Because if we can't use it because everything's outside the district, then it doesn't do us any good. Or if the timing is off. So we need to look at that. We need to look at the specifics there. And that's what I was getting at here.
So I agree with you. How would you suggest we make that into a concise
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
We asked the village manager to tell us that the 75-25 can't be used for Phase 2 and 3 of the sewers. And then we decide whether we even want to have the 75-25 anymore, because the money would be well-suited to be redirected somewhere else. So we need to get a little more specific with what we're asking the village manager to tell us.
Okay, so
So
I'll,
I think that's what,
let me be specific.
Yeah.
I'll put it in bullets. Bullet number one, I look at the projected funding or the projected revenues from the 75%. Now, you can take the chart that I put together and say that that's okay, those are good numbers, or you can come up with some other numbers, but come up with some numbers. That's the first step.
So I said,
Okay, the
ask
second
the
step
village
is
manager
to
to
take the
tell-
CIP
Yes.
and look at what items in the CIP are either in the district fully or partially, and make that list. And the ones that are outside, like you say, Phase 2 and 3, they're outside, no sense talking about them. So that's bullet 2. The next thing to do, bullet 3, is to look at the timing. Here's the revenues coming in these years, here's the timing in the CIP. Do they or do they not line up? This is not rocket science, it's just a matter of sitting down and doing it.
So
Yeah.
Darwin, if I might ask you a question. So I've studied this for years. Is any of the CIP, the 75-25 revenues for the next 3 years, okay, which is the maximum duration of Phase 2 and 3 of the sewer, $12 million bond sale, available to fund that project?
The sanitary sewer pump station project, no. But keep in mind that we do have about a $7 million water system improvement phases 3 and 4 that are almost entirely within the TDA district.
So we have, at this time, the next 3-year, and when is that water project scheduled?
We don't have a
It's
schedule.
not scheduled the next 3 years, is it?
No, not at
Okay,
this time.
so there's your answer, George. If you can ferret out the information that I just provided you,
that's being pretty reductionist and just to 2 simple projects, because I have pulled that list of eligible projects from the
I-
CIP, and just writing something off because it's not in the next 3 years, when that fund revenue won't be $7 million in 3 years, but it might be in 6 years when we want to do that project. So I support Mr. Dandulidis's wanting to understand all the lineup, what the projects are, instead of just reducing it to 2 projects. What we're doing right now is just reducing it, write it off. If it's not the sewer systems, well, then it shouldn't be used at all. We should just write off that program. When there are other things, and I want to see the data and what can be used, do we have an overfund, do we have an underfund when we look at all those other projects?
And we can probably shift the CIP so that it matches up perfectly, right?
no,
It's,
that's it, no.
and
The
if
sewer-
and
the
if-
sewers
no,
have to
no,
be done
Michael,
now, guys. Hate to tell you this.
It's
I
not the
don't
only
wanna-
thing we have to fund.
I don't want to pay $130
Michael, when you're
a
talking
quarter
about
next this year for my
75-25,
water, sewer.
when you're talking about 75-25, there is no sense talking about sewer pumps in the same conversation because the sewer pumps aren't in the district. So don't confuse the issue. Don't bring those two together. They don't belong in the same
The
discussion.
issue is whether the 75-25 plan even can exist anymore.
And it's
Question
pretty
is whether
short-sighted to just limit
The
it to sewers.
DDA, fully funding the DDA and having all of the residential properties, tax dollars going to the DDA, those are funding elements, guys. I don't know where you plan to get $800,000 this year out of our $1.2 million village budget to pay for the sewer water pump stations. I can do some really simple math, okay? So it says on this paper in front of me that we're going to have an annual payment for phases 2 and 3 of I'm going to be quoted, $797,000 we have to come up with this year to make the payments, or the people have to pay $140 a quarter more on their sewer bills. okay? Those numbers way overshadow anything about a tennis court or a bridge or a 75-25.
Again, I think we're getting off the topic
Getting
of
way off the
what
point.
what this is intended to do. We
Yeah.
can talk about water rates and philosophies and how we're paying for that. But this is a goal so we understand the full picture. So we're not short-sighted and just thinking about what's, the numbers right here that, yes, we look at them and like scary numbers, but that gets us caught up into emotion versus thinking long-term and seeing the numbers fully long-term, not just in the next year. And so that's what this goal is helping us to do.
This will enable us to make a plan so that it does work. That's the way I see it.
Darwin, can you do that, what they're asking for?
I believe I understand what George is talking about, and that is tailoring part of our CIP to address the revenues we anticipate from future tax captures within the DDA district. We've already started doing that, and the beauty of what the council does is you have the discretion every year to relook at it and retailer it the way you want to. You had identified the Paint Creek bank stabilization and sidewalks this past year as a priority with those funds. Those priorities may change, and you may want to shift them somewhere else. And we do that as part of the CIP review and discussion. But I think in some ways you're talking about the same things here. You have a certain pot of money that comes from that 75-25. Where you allocate those funds, and the agreement that you have with the DDA is the council makes that determination, goes to the DDA board and says, this is what we would like to allocate the funds to, and the DDA board agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. But it's flexible, and you have the discretion to say, okay, we're going to move to a different priority than what we had identified last year. But you've got 75% of growth in taxes to work with from one year to the next on projects. And I believe that's what George is talking about, is determining how we maximize the utilization of that 75% to address the needs that you've identified in the CIP.
Yeah, and I think it's looking longer term at, over the next 10 years,
Exactly.
15 years, what that number is going to be in that 75, or projections for what that number will be in that 75 account. And what, are we going to run out of eligible projects in the DDA district? Are we, all of that kind of stuff.
I think that's impossible, but I welcome seeing whatever data and assumptions may go into that. The CIP is a 6-year plan, and even going out 6 years sometimes is a struggle to project that far into the future, which is why it is a 6-year plan, and then projects drop off and new ones are added the following year. But it is a plan, and it's, I don't think any of us can say with any certainty 4, 5, 6, 10 years, 15 years, what the taxable value, what that growth in taxable value is going to be. We can make certain assumptions, and we can agree on those assumptions. Whether or not they end up being correct is something else.
So I just want to point out that we have about 8 minutes or so left to give everybody some transition time there. Right now, where we're left with goal 2 under management of CIP is analyzing, and all that goes into that 75-25, and then investigating alternative funding strategies for the CIP, including bonding, special assessments, tax millages, but with the goal of reducing residents' financial burden for the CIP costs.
So what kind of timing can we put around them? Can we get them, can we do those by the end of second quarter,
I think
June 30th?
for the CIP, for the 75-25, I think certainly, and if we want to form a committee for that, we can. So maybe by June 30 for that. Objective 2.4, that one's, it feels hard to put a timeline on that. It feels like it's ongoing all the time. So I'm not sure how you want to do that. Because the CIP doesn't end, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So if you have ideas, let me know. Otherwise, if we can get through a couple more of these. Goal 3, promote quality recreation services and environmental stewardship. We had moved the Paint Creek bank stabilization and Children's Park Bridge down to objective, that became objective 3.1. We moved that down there. Objective 3.2, we have investigate and plan for the drawdown structure, and objective 3 is promote and support increased funding for parks and recreation programs. So take any or all comments on any of those. And if we're, say, move on, we can move on. Well, I'll move on to goal 4, promote efficient and effective municipal operations. So we have 7 that ended up there. I think
I don't,
they are on page 20, or 35.
35.
You'll see on page 35. So 4.1 is positive collaborative relationships with DDA and township. 2, improve approachability and transparency. 3, enhance and support DPW, police, and DDA in serving residents. 4, complete ordinance codification. 5, finalize engineering standards. 6, enhance enforcement efforts. And 7, finish identifying, classifying, and determining use of all village-owned properties.
Well, the 4.3, the DDA's legal objective isn't to serve the residents, unfortunately. So that wording is a little off. It's not part of their mission. You know,
I'm saying serving the community because DPW, police, and DDA
I just
do all that.
Just take the words off, and we just put.
Okay, just enhance and support.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that's enough, I think.
That's
I don't
fine.
want to nitpick too big.
Do we have, Darwin, any idea when the ordinance codification will be completed, since that is an objective?
My target is June 30th.
Okay,
The last edits, from what I understand, were submitted back to Municode by Attorney Kucharek
Okay.
recently, so.
and what about the engineering standards?
Engineering standards, we have the engineering standards completed. There are ordinance amendments that need to be done. The engineers and the attorney have been working on that. I would anticipate no later than June 30th and possibly sooner than that.
I would suggest you add the words onto that one, engineering standards, ordinance revisions, and what's it called when we have a working relationship with the township to do certain things, protocol? Like to tell them they have to review the plot plan, so we need, and the protocol for the operations. I was talking to Wendy Spence, one of our engineers, and she indicated this was all integrated into this
Okay.
thing. I didn't realize this much work had been done on it, but it's almost there. But then once the ordinances are amended, then the township needs to be directed with, since we're letting them proceed with the building
Yeah.
inspections, there's a process where they'll have to verify whether or not the engineering standards are lived up to in the building.
Right.
It's a big integrated thing, so.
So 4.5 would be finalize engineering standards, ordinance revisions, and operations protocol by June 30th.
Great. And what does 4.6 mean? I don't,
That was from our 2025-26. We broke that item into objective 4.2 in last year's goals were ordinance enforcement, complete ordinance codification, finalize engineering standards, and enhance enforcement efforts, exploring funding opportunities. So that's where that came over. If we don't have a definition for what that means, we can take it out. Or we have to define what that means.
I think there was a concern when this was placed in the goals, there was a concern about not being as thorough in code enforcement as we could be, because historically, there have been a number of items that we have dealt with, and stepping up enforcement. The chief has done a lot of work to revamp code enforcement, the code enforcement division. We have invested in technology. So we've taken that goal very seriously. I think that was part of the concern in wanting to have that on there. And I would recommend that you keep it on for one more year at least.
Okay.
Do you want to put code enforcement? Is that the focus then?
I guess.
Promote, continue to promote proper code enforcement?
Continue to enhance or promote enforcement, code enforcement efforts, that's fine.
All right.
Keep in mind, too, that these will be in, I think, probably next meeting's agenda for finalization. So if you have more comments between now and then, you can bring those as well. But if no one else has any burning something, it is 6:26.
I just, 4.7?
Yeah.
I think you should remove all the verbiage after that.
Just finish identifying, classifying, and determining use of village-owned properties.
Yeah, because we have no idea where we're going with that.
Okay.
So they're almost done with that, I believe, so we can,
And we'll make those determinations as they come.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just simplify it to that first sentence.
And I do have one additional comment. I would like to recommend that once we finalize the goals and objectives for the year, I would like to recommend that at the end of each quarter, so let's say March 30th, June 30th, March 31st, June 30th, whatever, that we bring these back in at a regular council meeting as an agenda item, and let's just take 15 minutes and go through them and see where we are, and do we need to
Progress,
course
yeah.
correct?
I'd support that. I don't think.
so you can add a wording in there to, quarterly or systematically.
Quarterly goal
or
check-ins.
frequently review these goals and objectives to determine,
Do we need that as a goal? Quarterly?
well, it could be a goal or it could be in the
It's
front.
just, I think it's letting administration know we want quarterly goal check-ins, so.
So I think this is, to me, we're signing up to do these. We're saying this is what we think's important, and this is what we're going to work on this year. I think we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to everybody else to keep these in front of us and do kind of a check mark,
Yeah.
Are we doing what we said we were going to do? And if we're not, then how do we course correct?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
We
Yeah,
will,
agreed.
if it's the consensus of the council, we will place on the agenda quarterly an item, review goal progress.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Any objections to that? All right. With that, it is 6:28. I want to give everybody time to use the restroom or stand up or whatever they need to do. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this special meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. We will begin our regular meeting in about 2 minutes.